Hello F1 fans and welcome back to the F1 Masters podcast brought to you by AUBG Daily. As usual, you're with myself, Vasco and David, and today we're going to react to the 2025 F1 Liveries and the F1 75 live event. So, let's start off.
What do you think about the event, first of all?
I thought it was a great event, and I think if they actually forced the teams to bring the new cars as well, it would be even more impressive. But yeah, it felt like it was like an Oscars show or like Grammys. It was like everyone was there. Really a huge, I think really huge event for F1, and I think very successful because I personally found it very entertaining. Even though it was 2 hours, I loved having the cars coming out one by one and all of them having their own like kind of way of marketing their cars. It was I really enjoyed the event, and I hope it continues on, like becoming an annual event.
I agree. I also enjoyed the event. I watched like the whole thing for 2 hours. I liked the jokes by the host. I liked the introductions. There were some nice videos as well about the historical events of teams like Williams and Aston Martin's history, and it was great to watch.
Some great jokes, some great hosting. In general, surprisingly good from the F1. At first I had like pretty low expectations, but I think it turned out to be great. And I hope that they would continue to improvise and create events like that would both market the F1 grid really well and at the same time try to engage more people with something out of the box, because this is not something typical for the F1. Can we start with the cars, or?
Yeah, let's start with the cars, and let's start with the first one that was presented, and it was the Kick Sauber car, the last ever Sauber car, also we have to mention, before the move to Audi next year.
Now.
Yeah, for now, but I think personally forever, but we shall see. And yeah, they went with obviously the same colors with the Kick Stake sponsorship, but it's like a gradient going from green to black, rather than last year it was really, I thought, messy and like unstructured. It felt like, well, this one, it feels a lot cleaner, and I personally like it much more than last year's livery.
Same goes for me. I think this time the combination of that pretty different green, which is like very like lighter, and also at the same time the black is pretty smooth, and all the sponsors are going pretty well with that. In general, the combination of light blue, of light green, some black, and the blue sponsors, I think goes pretty well. So I can say that Sauber have done pretty good job this year. For sure better than last year's car.
I agree with both of you. The shade of green is really improved since last year. And from the front, like the car looks amazing with this green. And also I like that the rear wheel rims are black, which matches the gradient of the car. This is a nice detail as well. So, yeah.
And the wheel covers as well, like the wheel cover in the front is green and in the back it's dark. So yeah, quite unique approach they have there.
If you have to give it a rating out of 10,
I would give it an 8 out of 10. I mean, I'm generally not the biggest fan of liveries with a lot of black in them, but this one works, and yeah, I think overall success from Sauber.
Same, I think it's pretty solid. Around 7.5 out of 10 for me, but great job from Sauber.
I'll say 7.5 as well. We can move on to Williams now, and they have changed as well, like their car's color a little bit, because at the back they have a lighter shade of blue because of their new sponsorship with Atlassian, and at the front it's like almost the same darker blue. So what do you guys feel?
I personally like this blue more, although generally this modern era of Williams cars I'm not the biggest fan of. I preferred like the old Williams with like the Canon sponsorship, like the blue and yellow, or the BMW Williams that was like blue and white. I thought those were really clean, and I don't know, they've kind of gone in very different direction at this point that it doesn't really feel like the same team. It's fine. I don't think it's anything crazy. I mean, they have that golf sponsorship. I wish they would incorporate that more in the liveries, since we know how famous golf liveries are. I would say it's pretty average, personally. I don't think it's anything crazy.
Definitely. For me, it looks like a generic car that you get on some mobile game app, something like that, when you play Formula 100 simulator, let's say. And
They don't have the license to anything.
Yeah, and so many ads, so many sponsors on the Williams car, and I personally preferred it in the past. I really liked the Martini collaboration when the car was white, and right now the only white is used for the sponsors, and I think that's a bit of a loss, and I'm not the biggest fan personally. The Duracell is incorporated better this time. I think it's not that annoying to the eyes as it was last year, or we are already used to it, and that is why I don't see it as an obstacle for the car. But personally, not the biggest fan. I don't think they've done a bad job, but I don't particularly think that they've done a great job either. But if I have to be honest, I think this is something like 3.5 for at the best out of 10.
I would give it like a 5. I think it's not like ugly to look at in my opinion, but it's just nothing special. So I think it's slap bang mid, as we would say.
I agree. Williams have lost like their path of liveries in recent years. And I'm gonna be the middle ground. I'm gonna say 4.5 out of 10.
If you ask me, they've lost their path in general in the past few years, but hopefully we will see something different from them this season.
Yeah. Moving on, speaking of white liveries, as you mentioned how good the Martini Williams was. Well, Racing Bulls surprised us with, in my opinion, the most ambitious and most exciting livery of the entire night, with their, I think, gorgeous white livery, and with like the bulls in the background, kind of reminiscent of like the 2020 Mercedes with the stars. I think it looks really nice, really different, and yeah, I miss seeing, like, there haven't been like many white cars in a long time. It's eerily similar to the 2021 Turkish Red Bull, and I love that livery. And this as a full-time livery, I think excellent. Honestly, the first time since they became RB where I've actually liked the decision they've made.
To add on that, I pretty much liked the Japan livery that Red Bull used, the white one, and the Turkish one was amazing too. And I think we are going to see this car throughout the whole season, and it is going to look super beautiful on screen. Like, I was a fan of the Alpha Tauri car when it was out. I thought that it is a pretty good combination of white, combining the sponsor and all that stuff, but I think this one is even better. The Visa logo is on the right place, the Cash App logo is on the right place, the incorporation of the Red Bull logo, Honda on the side, Hugo on the front side, just everything is connected so well together. And I think even if this is the slowest car on the grid, I think it would be pleasure to look at it, even if it is like 19th and 20th for the whole season.
Yeah, to also add on what you said about like the sponsorships. I mean, last year it felt like it was just like a billboard car with the sponsors just being so in your face, where this year they really complement the car and they don't feel like they're too much. They feel like they go with the car, so I really like that.
I think last year it felt like some kids were playing with shiny stickers and they just placed it all around the car. And this year it looks like the kids have grown up a bit and they finally learned how to use Canva, and they're doing some interesting stuff. But looks pretty clean.
It's also the first time that Red Bull's sister team uses the actual colors of the Red Bull like logo. Because when it was Toro Rosso, it used like, for example, it used sometimes silver,
like alternate colors.
Yeah, but now it's the first time we've ever seen this, and I actually like it. I think it's cool. Yeah.
And darker colors dominated more when it was Toro Rosso in the past, and right now they have decided to use more light colors, like pretty light yellow, white color, and all that stuff. And just the combination, I think it looks pretty clean, as I already mentioned like 5 times. So I would give it probably 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's the best livery easily. It doesn't really have any competition compared to the others. Yeah, I think 9.5 sounds just about right. I think they give it a 10. It would have to be iconic, and I don't think an RB will ever be iconic, but still really well done for the livery. I think it's great.
I think you forget about Pierre Gasly's win in Monza, but you're forgiven about that.
That was AlphaTauri though, so
well,
different times.
Still, but it was the sister team of Red Bull, and the car was looking pretty good. And if we see that car on the podium this year, it would look pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree, it's a 9.5. I mean, best out of all of them this year. And we'll move on now to Haas. They have the same like color combination. It's just that they switched a little bit, like the letters are now in black. But I mean, it's nothing special. It's almost the same every year for them.
Yeah, the Haas, I like more. Last year, the side pods were black and the letters were white. This year, they changed up the colors. And I think it's better, although I don't know. It kind of goes weird because the rear wing, the Haas logo is white and the background is red. Bit of a weird combination. I don't know why they could actually go for like red side pods. I don't see why they don't. That would fit their sponsors and their whole brand much better. I actually don't know why they wouldn't do that. I think it's good. Nothing crazy. Pretty much, I don't know what I would expect from a Haas livery.
Pretty solid job in my opinion, nothing spectacular. I like how they have incorporated the MoneyGram logo to go very smooth with the car. I'm not the biggest fan of the black Haas letters, but I can live with that. And in general, I think 6.5 out of 10 is just about right for this car.
Yeah, I would pretty much rate it the same, like a 6 out of 10. It's good, but not great.
Yeah, 6 for me, nothing special. And we can move on to the Alpine. Vasco wants to start.
I hate it. I think for the past few years, I cannot remember the last time. Probably it was 2017, 2018, something like that, when I liked the livery of this team. And I liked in the past the black and yellow livery of Renault, but since they became Alpine, I don't like their cars. I think that the blue is pretty mixed. I think even a bit ugly in combination with pink, with a bit of bright pink, I can say. It looks even worse because they're not smooth in any way. There is no combination of the colors. It's a bit like a 5-year-old started drawing something and they were like, oh, I want to try this color and I want to try this color. And the white A is not looking good for me. The sponsors, they're just fine on the car, but the bright pink BWT, I simply hate it. I just cannot hide it. And if I have to be honest, I think this car is something like 2 out of 10 for design.
I will admire that unlike last year, they actually decided to put paint on the car. So for that alone, I think it's actually an improvement. Although I absolutely hate the pink. Obviously, the BWT sponsorship is a big factor. But I don't know, I just feel like even if you have to use these two colors, there's so many better ways I feel like it can be incorporated, because the entire nose of the car going all the way up to the cockpit is pink, but then like if you look at it from the side, it feels like it's a completely different car. And I just think like it's so mixed up and not really designed like properly, where it could look like a normal racing car. So I don't think it's as bad as Vasco says it is. I think it's like a 4, but yeah, they can do so much better.
And just to add, I think even if the whole car was pink, it would have looked better. Just the combination of this strange blue and this pink, it just doesn't go well.
I agree that the combo is really bad, but I mean, as David said, at least they put some color this time, so that's why I'll give him like an encouraging 3.5 out of 10.
Seriously encouraging.
Yeah, and we can move on to Aston Martin, whose presentation was probably one of the best, I would say. And their car, it's green, wow, and it has a darker shade of green as well on the side pods. Otherwise, it's completely the same. I mean, no surprise there.
Yeah, we're getting into what I would like to describe the copy and paste territory, where the following teams, most of them kept pretty much the same livery. Aston Martin, they have like this new sponsor, which you can only see like on the side of the car. It is like Madden, and it's like this white, which is the only thing I would say that stands out for me in this car. From the front, you can't see it at all. But apart from that, yeah, basically the same. I mean, they have the same sponsors, so it doesn't really come as too much a surprise. The only thing that they did, which I actually like, they made the numbers like this neon green, and I just think it looks cooler than like a plain white. So
yeah, entering the zone of pretty much the same cars. I actually think that the small changes are improvements. As David said, the neon numbers, they're fine, and they found a way to incorporate Aramco at the front wing. Pretty nice, I think. And the white Madden thing is alright as well. If I have to be honest, I like the green liveries of Aston Martin. And that is why I think this is a slight improvement from last year. Nothing spectacular, nothing crazy, but no challenges, nothing that can destroy the look of the car. So that is why I would give it, I think, a pretty solid 7, even probably 7.5 out of 10.
I would give it like 6.5 because it's fine, but it's like they haven't really experimented with their livery at all since they became Aston Martin, and I would like to see something a little bit different.
Yeah, for me it's a 7 out of 10. We're moving on to Mercedes, and I mean, the car is the same, except that there is no Ineos, there is no red now, and I was surprised, even though they're still sponsors. But I mean, it's nothing special, it's alright. I'll give it like a 6.5.
I want to say I was so disappointed when I saw this car. I was actually very excited to see something different, considering that Lewis Hamilton is gone, and I thought they were going to like signal a new era with a new design or something. I was thinking they're going to go back to all silver. I was hoping for that. They've gone for the exact same thing as last year, which last year I actually liked it. Silver going into the black, but I think it's overdone its day. I think that they should go back to the silver. Silver is the iconic car. And yeah, I was very disappointed with this. But as Kari said, the Ineos sponsor is gone. Makes it much better because that was the most out of place sponsor in the entire grid. So I think that makes it slightly better, I suppose. But yeah, I was very disappointed. So I would say this is like a 4.5 out of 10.
I also prefer the silver livery, but I'm not against the black one, and I think the sponsors, they look fine. If I have to be honest, the car looks a bit empty, if I can put it that way, because when the livery is black, you probably have to put a lot of things for it to look better, to look creative, and this is not the case. But for sure, as I'm not the biggest fan of Ineos, I think I am not against the livery. I'm not the biggest fan, but I think pretty solid 6 out of 10 for me.
Let's move on to Red Bull with the reigning Drivers' World Champion, Max Verstappen, and their car. And their car, surprise, surprise, pretty much the same. The only thing is they have new sponsors. They lost quite a bit compared to last year, but it's still pretty similar. And I actually thought that there would be more like Red Bull messaging on it, and it's kind of in the same place. I thought there would be with like bigger letters, maybe on the side pod, things like that. But not really. They did the exact same thing, and it's fine. I mean, it's still a decent livery. Like, if it isn't broke, don't fix it, as they say. So I think it's okay. I wish they would try something different, because the sister team went completely like left field, but Red Bull deciding to just continue with the same thing.
Well, for me, this livery is evergreen, because Red Bull, I think from the beginning they've nailed the formula. I'm not particularly like the biggest fan of let's change the livery, let's try something different. I think it looks fine as it is. It could have been more creative for sure. I'm also not the biggest fan of the Orco sponsorship. For me, it doesn't particularly look great. But with the sponsors of Mobi1 and Rao, I think they usually find a way to incorporate them pretty well. And the Red Bull, I think it is looking good enough. So my honest opinion, solid 7 out of 10. As every year, I think it's pretty much the same with the Red Bull livery.
Yeah, I just like a suggestion for what they could do to the livery. I think they could make like the really dark blue, I guess, like the main part of the car, make it a little bit of a lighter blue, more similar to like the Red Bull can colors they have, like the blue there. I think that could look cooler, or at least they could try something different.
But that way, I think it may look more like previous Toro Rosso cars.
Maybe I was thinking more of like the 2011, 12 colors that they were going for. Also, when they had like the Infinity sponsorship and they had like this purple, I thought that looked really nice personally. I think that era Red Bull was best liveries for Red Bull.
Yeah, I would agree. But I still think this is a pretty solid and already like memorable livery. 7 out of 10 for me. And we can move on to Ferrari, who have a little bit more white on their car this year. Some people were reminded of the like Sebastian Vettel 2017-18 days kind of. But I mean, it's fine. I like the shade of red. I'll give this like I would say like an 8.5. It's a really nice livery for me. So what do you guys think?
I also think it's very nice. It doesn't really remind me of the Sebastian Vettel one. The red is much darker. And God, I do hate HP. Like, it does not fit at all. But Ferrari have incorporated it much better compared to last year. Last year, it felt like they just stuck it on the car. Obviously, mid-season they did it, so they didn't design the car around the sponsorship. But this year they did. I like that white stripe. I like the darker red. It's kind of like the 2022 Ferrari. Like the darker red looks meaner, it's nicer. And yeah, I think the white complements it as well, really well. So I would give it like an 8. Yeah, really, really good livery.
Definitely, they've done a better job than the previous season. I'm not sure about that, but I think that the red is a bit lighter than the last year's one. And that is why the white part, the white logo of HP looks better on that. I don't like the HP that it has so much space on the car. But even though they have a lot of sponsors, I think they've done pretty good job with putting all of them on the car, and it doesn't look like too much in my opinion. So I will join you, and I think pretty solid 8 out of 10.
And last but not least, the reigning champions McLaren. I think it's almost exactly the same as last year. I was very disappointed when I saw it. I'm not the biggest fan of this livery, honestly. There is too much black on this car. And I'll give it like even a 5.5 out of 10, honestly.
Me too. I prefer the papaya color to be like the biggest part of the car. I'm not even sure what this sponsor is, whatever thing, but it doesn't look great in my opinion. And also Google Chrome, the first behind the driver's seat and on the tires, I think from the last year it looks super ugly, and it shouldn't be like that. I think they can find ways to incorporate it better. And pretty ugly the livery, like only the papaya color saves it. But if I have to be honest, it's something like 4.5 out of 10 for me. Nothing spectacular, just pretty boring and not creative.
Yeah, I wish the whole car was papaya. That would look really, really cool. Like for example, the 2019, 2020 cars, I think those were peak liveries during this era of liveries for McLaren. The black stripe, they did it. It is the exact same thing as last year. I mean, my only guess they do that black stripe is for like sponsorship reasons for the logos, but it's, I mean, not ambitious and disappointing from the reigning Constructors Champions. You think they would come up with something more innovative, but no, pretty much the same thing. I would give it like a 6 out of 10 because I still think it's okay, but I wish they would do something more with it.
Well, right now it looks a bit like McLaren have sold their soul just to incorporate some sponsors, but definitely not looking great. And we can come to the conclusion. 10 liveries. My favorite one, personally, the RB1. The ugliest one, I think it was Alpine's, but I'm also not a fan of the McLaren one. What about you?
I would also agree. RB by far the best, and the worst. I think it was either Alpine or
Williams?
the Williams. Yeah, the Williams was kind of trash as well. I think I rated it as mid, but like comparing it to all the other ones, it really is not good at all.
I think we have all agreed on the same ones. So we can just wrap up, and this is all for today from us. We're looking forward to the next episode. Till then, like, subscribe, and follow us and AUBG Daily on Instagram and Facebook, and stay tuned for more of our content. Thank you, and remember,
If you no longer go for a gap that exists,
You're no longer a racing driver.